All right.
I
Look kind of fuzzy.
Um, this is all we're expecting. Um, so should I wait until we have people on video,
um
or we also have to? You have to read in the legal notice, right?
I do. My problem is
Hey everyone.
I
Hey,
am.
Anna.
there's Anna sticks couldn't pop on. We can't start a meeting without a quorum. So okay.
Hey, Martin.
Hey, Martin.
Hi, works on my phone.
So funny.
I'm going to try making the call first. Is it? She phone. Oops. Whatever his name was that. Anna declined being post.
So well, I guess we'll have to wait till you're sorted.
I'm fine. I'm fine. I mean, as long
Okay.
as y'all are there, I could. Okay. Go ahead, chat.
And I don't know if it's me, but you're kind of breaking up a little as well.
That's clear. That shouldn't be.
I didn't hear you.
I said that shouldn't be. That should.
Yeah.
Now.
Well, maybe it's just me. Okay. Well, let's open the meeting for July 1st, 2024 of the Inland Wetlands and Watercourses Agency at 7:03 p.m. We have in attendance for the agency Martin Broggie, Anna Moss, Tom Clancy, and myself, Kayla Freidenberg, thus making quorum for the night. Thank you, Tom. Our first agenda item is a public hearing, and my understanding is that we'll need to read the legal notice in, or Maria can read the legal notice in for that.
Let's see, and here we go. Whenever you're ready. Are you ready?
Yep. Yep.
Okay. Notice is hereby given that the Madison Inland Wetlands and Watercourses Agency will hold a remote public hearing on Monday, July 1st, 2024 at 7 p.m. Public is invited to attend by joining the webinar link below, www.zoom.us. Webinar ID 997-647-8210, password 95427, call in number 1-646-558-8656. Application materials are attached to the agenda at www.MadisonTV.org. At this hearing, written communications will be received and interested parties will be heard. Correspondence can be mailed to land use at MadisonTV.org. Application 2429 to 41 Neck Road, map 12, lots 103-1 and 103-3. Owners Andrew Corwin and Pamela D'Arc and David Etzel. Applicants Andrew Corwin and Pamela D'Arc. Regulated activity to install public water service line through inland wetland and within 100 feet of an upland review area. Dated this 10th day of June 2024, Kayla Freidenberg, Chairman. This was published in the source once on June 20th and once on June 27th.
Okay. Great. So we'll start out by opening. Oh, go ahead. I was going to make a motion to open the public hearing for application 24-29 Neck Road and 241 Neck Road.
Second.
Okay, got a second? All in favor of opening up the public hearing? Raise your hand, say aye.
Aye.
Excellent.
Aye.
Okay, so I see we have Chuck Mendel for the applicant here. And just as a refresher, this we have been talking about this application for many months now. This was the application where the initial proposal was to run the water line through a wetland, a pretty undisturbed wetland. And we got a third party environmental consultant to comment on this. And it was going to be a pretty significant activity. And all of this is because of some of the rules for the Connecticut water about how to run these lines and where you can run them. So we had all of that. That application was withdrawn last month. This has been submitted instead. We did a site walk on, I think it's June 13th, to look at the new placement, which is south of where it was going to be. And that's what this application is about tonight. So that's kind of the background. So I guess to keep in mind, because all of the application, the withdrawn application, I believe is also kind of we submitted, right? Or it's tagging along with this one, Maria, or
So, yeah, we'll take care of that when we speak about the previous submissions.
and so, you know, it's not that we haven't, you know, seen at least some of this before, but this is an alternative to what was previously proposed. All right, so Chuck, you want to give an overview of what you plan to do?
Yeah, good. Can anyone hear me? I can't. I have no video, so I don't know if anyone can hear me.
Yeah, Chuck, you're good.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. Yeah, so this was, as Kilo explained, as previous application. The original application was about 160 linear feet through a very substantial wetland. It had great value, lots of biodiversity, lots of amphibians. It wasn't ideal, but that's the only avenue that we had. If that was denied, we'd have to go to Pura. It goes to court, takes a while. So anyway, let's go forward to today. The owner of, there's a 20-foot strip to the south. The owner, David Etzel, had offered that to Andrew Corwin when he heard the plight of getting water. We had Bob Russo go out there. He did a functions and values. It was a 20-foot strip of Phragmites. Essentially, it was dry at the time. Sometimes there is standing water earlier in the year, but it wasn't at the time of the walk. Per Bob Russo's report, the last paragraph stated, even if it was paraphrasing it, obviously, even if it was replanted with native species, the Phragmites would just overtake it. There would be no maintenance that would be possible to maintain that for the frag, to keep the frag out. So this is it's also reduced in width. I believe the application we had was a 15-foot width. Now it's a 10-foot wide width, which is the minimum required by the Connecticut Water Company. And there's a detail on the sheet that shows the how the trench is actually constructed. It's 5 feet deep from the surface to the top of the pipe, and it's about 1.5 feet in width. So it's a fairly narrow trench, but that's enough to get a mini excavator in there, excavate, sink the pipe, and they can either backfill it with sand, or at the time they'll look at the native material and see if that's suitable for backfill. That's determined at the time. So that's about 6 cubic yards of sand, which may be embedded inside the pipe, the trench.
Before you go any further, want to make the application, the old application, part of this record while we do materials?
Oh, yeah, okay, yeah, and I'd like to make the older application part of the record, introduce that as just evidence as to the value of the other wetlands and how we are significantly reducing the damage to any inland wetland. It's fairly straightforward. We had communication with the water company today. There's some modifications on the map in regards to the language of it, but there's no modification as to the width and the technical details of what's actually going to be affected for the wetlands.
Did you want to see one of the maps?
Yeah, go ahead and
Please.
we can pull that up.
Yeah. Just as an aside, that the money that's being transferred for this property, it's $10,000, which is actually going to the land trust. So it's more of a donation that David Etzel was looking for that piece of property also. There's no real financial benefit to him. So if you scroll up, I imagine, Maria, you can see that pocket. It's down at the bottom of the page.
No, I don't know.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Yeah. So there's the service trench on page 2. And there you go. And there was no standing water. That light blue is where I imagine at some point, I think when Todd Anderson did the original wetlands application or locations, there may have been standing water in that area, but it was dry at the time.
Right, and the previous application that we had spent some months looking at is the northern high value wetland that has a non-disturbance 50-foot buffer right there outlined in blue to the top.
Correct.
Right, just and that so this is on the opposite side of the house going through. For those who weren't on the walk, it is all Phragmites. Actually, and there was some bittersweet nightshade, but it's a pretty healthy Phragmites stand. So anything else, Chuck, to talk about? that you want to share?
No, the reason we can do it that way is Stone Road is also owned by David Etzel, and he already granted an easement to the Connecticut Water Company for Stone Road. So if he sells that southern piece, and it's combined with the Neck Road piece, with Corwin's piece, then a second easement's not required, and therefore Connecticut Water can put that 1-inch line through there.
Oh, good. I'm glad that they will be happy.
Yes, so we've already had a conversation with them, and this is a viable alternative.
So, are there? So this is a public hearing, and this is where you have a chance to. We, as a commission, have a chance to ask questions and determine, impacts and anything else before we open it up to anybody from the public who might want to comment. So, do any of the agency members have questions or comments for Mr. Mandel?
I was wondering the method of dewatering and water management was going to be the same as what was previously proposed, or is that going to be a little less intensive given the new location?
Well, so we are prepared for that contingency if we need to. So if you see to the north of the house, you'll see a proposed dewatering bag. It's one of those silt sacks that there's a small there's a detail of it on the sheet there, but also, and we had proposed a rain garden, which we were going to use for a temp. So if there is any water, it goes into the silt sack, into the temporary sediment basin, which is going to be a rain garden in the future. And then that's how, but we're not really anticipating much water.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, but we are proposing a well point if we do hit the water and pump it over to the silt sack.
Okay. I was looking at the application materials earlier, and I didn't see where Bob Russo addressed the natural diversity database species.
Yeah, I looked at that today, Martin. It is part of the record. It is there. We did do
Okay.
that. Yeah, and there was no concerns.
There's no concerns based on the nature of the species. It's, that's
In
there.
in that area, correct. We didn't see, there was nothing.
All right. Thanks, Chuck.
Yep.
Other questions from agency members? Did you have one, Tom, or?
No, I just again scanning through the map, blowing it up and looking at it a little bit. Seems to be in line.
And just an added note is if we do get approval for this, we have to go to planning and zoning. Since this is part of a subdivision, anytime a subdivision property lines are moved or changed, you have to go back to planning and zoning. So we have a couple more hurdles to go through.
Anna, do you have any questions or comments that you? No.
No, I don't.
Okay. I guess what I'll say is I think it is a much more prudent and feasible option than the previous application, where a much different wetland was going to be highly disturbed. Having walked this new site, I think Mr. Russo is correct saying that the Phragmites is, it is really just Phragmites. So a planting plan doesn't really make sense there, given that it's this 10-foot strip heading up. All right. Are
So-
there any? Go ahead.
No, just thank you for decent neighbors.
Yeah, it's great that the two homeowners could come to an agreement that minimizes disturbance to the inland wetlands, and I think is a much better option.
Much.
Is there anybody from the public who, since this is a public hearing, is there anybody from the public who wants to comment on this?
No, there's no hands raised.
No hands raised.
Nope.
Okay, well, so this is a public hearing. This is our last chance to gather any information about this application. If you feel that you have enough information,
Wait,
go ahead.
there's a hand raised now.
Okay,
James O'Connor.
great.
Mr. O'Connor, if you can unmute yourself and state your name and your address for the record.
I'm sorry, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, great. Sorry, a little technical problem at my end. I just wanted to thank all the members for their due diligence and reconsideration. For Andrew for coming up with David Etzel's concurrence on the better location for that water line. And David Etzel has been wonderful since we moved here 10 years ago. And it's nice to see a neighborhood come together and come up with a better plan. And we were somewhat concerned about, water migration with fluorinated water after 20 years or whatever going into the pond and the biodiversity impacted. So anyway, we're very glad that it's worked out the way it has, and like to thank you all for your time that you put into this committee work.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good to hear. Anybody else want to say anything? Any other hands raised? Nice to hear positive reinforcement.
No, there is not.
Okay. Okay. So for the agency members, unless you see a need to gather more information, I would suggest that if you feel like you have enough information to at least have a discussion and potentially act on this that we close the public hearing and move on to the next phase of our evening.
I'd make a
Everyone's on
motion.
board?
to close the public hearing.
Okay, got a motion?
Second,
A second. All right, all in favor to close the public hearing for 24-29 Neck Road and 241 Neck Road? Raise your hand, say aye.
aye.
Okay, great. So we, you know, in one sense, this is a great, kind of, as I said, a prudent and feasible option that is being used, or being implemented, which is wonderful. Have you guys all seen the staff report that Maria drafted for us? I can share it. I guess so. In this phase is our discussion, and so. Oh wait. All right. So can you see? Are you looking at the plan or at my desktop? Or
Yes.
the,
Yep.
so are we looking at the staff report?
Yes,
Oh, good.
this is the one that was updated with late this afternoon or this afternoon.
Yes, this should be the most recent one. Do you remember what you changed?
Scroll up a little, scroll up. Keep going, keep going. Oh, past it. Yes, it's the right one, yes.
This is the right one. Okay. So, you know, because this is a significant activity, it's disturbing the you know, going through a wetland. We have our findings regarding the regulated activity. So you can kind of look at this. This describes basically what we talked about, and that there's a direct impact of 737 square feet of woodland wetland. And then we have our kind of recommendations, you know, the notification, stabilization, ENS controls. So I think this is kind of pretty much our standard type of resolution. Is there anything else people would like to discuss about this? Because I believe I have to do I'm going to read this all into the record
Ooh,
thing again. I know. I have water
I'm sorry,
here.
what's the date on that one? I have one June 20th.
This is
June
June
20th.
20th.
Just happened to make a small like edit at the bottom.
What's the date on that one? I'm sorry.
This is June 20th.
Yeah. it's the
Okay,
same
I have that. Okay.
by first, but it was a small edit in the bottom.
Yeah, it was just a minor edit from, she kept the date the same. There was just a minor edit that got sent out from last week. Okay, so I guess I will just summarize. I think this is a great option. Having walked the site, I think the Phragmites will kind of come back pretty quickly. Maybe some native species can sneak in there. So insofar as we have this option, rather than going through this pristine wetland and highly disturbing it, I guess I am in favor of approving this with our standard conditions. So barring any other discussion, I will make a motion. Or do I have to read this in first? Do you know, Maria, or do I, no, do you know, Maria, do we make a motion and then I
Yes.
read this in?
You would make a motion, then you do the same. I think this is your motion.
Okay, so I'm gonna make a motion that we approve this application as described through this staff memo. And then we can discuss. So that's my motion, that we approve this with the conditions described here.
Second,
Second. All right, so we have a motion and a second. Are there any other conditions or concerns people have about this before I go ahead and read this in and then we vote? No?
Nope.
Okay. All right, so I will read this in, right? And then we'll vote on it. Is that right, Maria? Sorry, I should just have a index card here with these things.
Yeah,
I
hold
think.
on. I just want to make sure. Hold on. I made a motion on 7. The draft resolution is shared. Yeah. Made a motion to close the public hearing. We closed it. Now you can share the draft resolution. And then you could vote on approving it.
Okay, all right, so I'll read this in. All right, so for application 24-29 Neck Road and 241 Neck Road, map 12, lot 103-3, 103-1, owner David Etzel, Andrew Corwin and Pamela D'Arc. Applicant Andrew Corwin and Pamela D'Arc. Regulated activity, installation of a 1-inch water service line through inland wetland and within 100 feet of upland review area. The following draft findings and resolutions are offered. Facts. The Madison Inland Wetlands and Watercourses Agency received this regulated activity application 24-29 Neck Road and 241 Neck Road, map 12, lot 103-3, 103-1. Owner David Etzel, Andrew Corwin and Pamela D'Arc. Applicant Andrew Corwin and Pamela D'Arc. Regulated activity, installment of a 1-inch water service line through inland wetland and within 100 feet of upland review area on June 3rd, 2024, and deemed the application a significant activity. This application is a resubmission of application number 24-06, and all application documents and materials, including public hearing testimony of this application, April 1st, 2024, are incorporated in the record. The agency walked the site during a regular site walk meeting on June 13th, 2024. A public hearing commenced via Zoom platform on July 1st, 2024. Upon closing the hearing on July 1st, 2024, the agency began deliberations. Findings regarding the regulated activity. The applicant's engineer, Thomas A. Stevens and Associates, Civil Engineers and Land Surveying, provided detailed presentation of submitted plans entitled Inland Wetland Regulated Activity Plan Water Service Prepared for Andrew Corwin and Pamela D'Arc, dated May 28, 2024, on the record at the July 1st, 2024 meeting. The applicant proposes to trench a 10-foot wide access strip from Stone Road through the southern end of the property, totaling approximately 190 feet to supply public water service to a newly constructed single-family home. This trail would have a direct impact on 737 square feet of inland wetlands. Detail sheet C-2 of 2 highlights a section of the wetland crossing, which includes the use of hay bales, the length of the fee strip, and along the southern property line of 241 Neck Road. The applicant further detailed dewatering activities to the north of the property, which will have additional erosion and sediment controls of silt fence and hay bales. The plan set included a detailed sequence of construction. Wetland delineation was previously performed by Robert C. Russo, CSS, on January 6, 2022. The applicant has submitted a functions and values report performed by Molly K. Ahern, soil scientist, one of CLA engineers, on May 31st, 2024. Ms. Ahern stated the National Wetlands Inventory does not map the southern wetland at all, likely due to its small size, approximately 0.09 acres, and would classify it as a palustrin emergent Phragmites marsh. The report further details that the wetland hydrology does not support finfish, but may support amphibian reproduction. It was also determined that probability of replanting the area being ineffective, and in all likelihood the wetland would soon become dominated by invasive species and appear similar to its current state. The report summarized saying the proposed activities will cause only a temporary impact to the wetland, and due to the wetland's small size and vegetation distribution, it is unlikely that this wetland performs significant ecosystem services in its current state. A letter from CTDEEP dated June 7th, 2024 stated they reviewed the natural diversity database maps and files and do not anticipate negative impacts. The agency discussed the application and asked questions and allowed for public comment. The Madison Inland Wetlands and Watercourses Agency has considered the application, supporting materials, and all documents and testimony entered into the record. The agency understands that their decision must be a determination supported by substantial evidence. The revised proposal entering the property from the south and reducing the disturbed area of wetlands from 2,312 square feet to 737 square feet causes temporary impact to the wetlands. The applicant's professionals, in our opinion, adequately depicted the existing conditions and took steps to minimize the impact to the wetlands. Thomas A. Stevens and Associates, civil engineers and land surveying, designed an alternative plan that addresses the agency's concerns. Resolution regarding regulated activity. The Madison Inland Wetlands and Watercourses Agency authorizes the regulated activity with the following conditions of approval to minimize impacts associated with the proposed regulated activity and to protect the inland wetlands and watercourses on this site. 1. The Inland Wetland Agency's agent shall be notified at least 48 hours prior to commencement of any regulated activity. 2. At all times during the work and until soil areas are stabilized, the applicant shall install and maintain erosion and sediment control measures such as fabric filter fence, stake hay bales, or other measures deemed necessary by the agency's agent to prevent erosion and sedimentation impacts to the wetlands and watercourses. 3. Erosion control and soil stabilization measures shall comply with the approved plan and the guidelines as established in the Connecticut Guidelines for Soil Erosion and Sediment Control, dated 2002. All work and all regulated activities conducted pursuant to this authorization shall be consistent with the terms and conditions of this permit. Any structures, excavation, deposition of fill, obstructions of flow, encroachments, or other regulated activities not specifically identified and authorized herein shall constitute a violation of this permit and may result in permit modification, suspension, or revocation. In the event that any additional wetland or watercourse regulated activities are required as a result of other agency permitting to support the proposed activity, the Madison Inland Wetlands and Watercourses Agency reserves the right to reconsider the proposed regulated activity and may require modifications to minimize the impact to wetland resources. This permit shall be valid for a period of 5 years. Permit extensions may be authorized in accordance with CT General Statutes 22A-36 through 22A-45 inclusive. The Inland Wetlands and Watercourses Agency renders this decision in accordance with the Madison Inland Wetlands and Watercourses regulations based on the following considerations. A, any temporary direct impacts to the watercourse proposed and potential indirect impacts have been mitigated through adequate sedimentation and erosion controls. And B, the revised proposal demonstrates a reasonable and prudent alternative causing minimal impact to the wetlands. Okay, all in favor of that resolution? Raise your hand, say aye. Okay. Any opposed? Abstaining? Okay, we have a unanimous decision, which is great.
Thank you very much.
Yes, thank you.
Thanks, Chuck.
Thanks, Tom.
Yeah, and I guess you're still with us, Chuck.
Yes.
Yes.
So our next application is a pending application that we saw last month, 24-23, 5 Shepherd's Trail. And again, just a reminder, we didn't site walk this, but this is for an accessory structure within the regulated activity area. So Chuck, did you want to update us on?
Yeah, so sorry, Chuck Mandel, agent for the applicant. So last meeting, there were some administrative issues with the permit, so those got straightened out. The commission said since we were waiting for we had to wait anyway for the application to get straightened out to have the wetlands delineation looked at. So we went ahead and hired Bob Russo. So Rich Snarsky did the original wetlands in the late 80s. Then we had Bob Russo go out. So the light the blue is the original wetlands and the orange colored was Bob Russo. So the wetlands didn't really change. They went in and out a couple of times, but it's essentially the same boundary. So that was one. The other thing is we had approval from the local health department to do a central system, but all central system, which is when you share the septic fields with each other. So they subsequently, that has to go to the state for permitting. So we sent it to the state. The state had several issues with it to re-engineer it, or to reverse engineer it and find out exactly what's there, make sure it's functioning. So we felt it was, and they said ideally it would be best if they could just separate the systems. So we did submit another plan today that shows the combined septic, but that's still going to be, the new system would be outside the 100-foot review. The tank and the pump would be in the same area, but the actual field would be outside the 100-foot. So that's essentially the only change in the plan. Like I said, was to show the revised wetland boundary, and the septic we're still working out, but there you can see where the test pits are in the southwest corner. So that's where any system, potentially any new system would go in that area, certainly well if outside 100 feet of the wetlands.
So could you say you submitted it? Can I see it online? Can I find it on the, if they want to look at it quick? Do you know if it was uploaded to the health department?
Yeah, let's see if Tony had sent that over to Trent. Let's see which line. That's see if I can do something here. It's gonna be a bit convoluted, but maybe I can try to do something here.
No, it might not have been uploaded. I don't see it uploaded yet.
Hold on, Maria. I am sending you. So I just sent you a text message with a picture on it. It kind of shows where it is, where it's proposed to be. I don't know if that's going to, maybe I could send that as an email, that picture. It might be better. Let's try that. Apologize. Let's see.
But, so you're saying the tank would be the same as what's depicted, but the potential field is going to be regardless
Would be
outside.
out, yes. The septic field would be outside. Let me just see if I can send this picture here. Okay, okay. So I also just sent you an email, Maria, with a picture of proposed system. And we still need approval from the health department for that, but it certainly won't get any closer. That all the soil testing was done in the southwest corner.
I'm just figuring if it was available. That's up to you guys if you want to see it.
Yeah, so I just sent an email to your email to the town hall.
There you go.
Okay. Okay, so you see that, so the tanks are essentially in the same spot. And you see where it says 5 foot of select fill? That would be the potential septic. The reason it's so small, it's for a 1-bedroom. It's only 12 and a half linear feet.
Okay.
And you can see the delineation, that dashed line is the 100-foot review. So the tanks is the red line that runs right through there. Yep. So that's outside the 100.
Okay. And the structure itself, as I recall, it's on piers.
Correct.
Is that right?
Exactly. Yep. They're trying to keep the cost down. It's only 400 and something square feet. It's a relatively modest structure.
Any questions from the commission? So, we talked about it last time briefly. The applicant has come back with information that we've requested. Are there other questions or concerns that we should be addressing or that you would like to address?
Sure. This is Martin. I think it's good that the ancillary structures placed sort of along the driveway. We're not adding a bunch of new pavement or new access way. It looks like there's not much of a yard area here. The lot is mostly wooded, and it looks like there will be some clearing to install this structure, if I'm not mistaken. I don't see an existing tree line or proposed tree line on the plan, Chuck. Am I missing that, or?
Just the silt fence would be the limit of clearing. They want to minimize that. There's not going to be any lawn proposed at all. They're just going to let it fill in and keep the brush away. It was lightly wooded, but there is no brush line per se in there.
Yeah.
But the
Okay.
proposed limits of clearing would be within that silt fence.
Yeah, it does look pretty lightly wooded and not too severe of a slope down to the wetlands. Did Bob Russo prepare any kind of a report documenting his delineation or any comment on the development at all?
No, I mean, since it had been previously flagged, if there was a great discrepancy, I would have asked him what happened, but it was essentially the same previously approved wetland boundary on there.
Okay.
And there won't be
looks-
any stumping either. I mean, those stumps are going to be cut flush, but they're not proposing to excavate those stumps out if there are any trees.
Sounds good. Looks like it's a pretty minimal project and pretty consistent with the neighborhood. From what I can tell.
So you're muted, Taylor.
Yep, just saw that. Any other questions for the applicant? Okay. All right. Well, let me pull up our, we have a staff report. I will share my screen so we can look at it, but I do not have to read it, which is great. I mean, I don't have to read it into the record. Okay, so we've had some discussion on this. It's on piers. Anything with the septic, the field will be outside the 100-foot, which is great. We've seen where the limit of clearing is, and it's on piers, which is lovely. So what we have as our draft resolution is again our kind of standard notifying our agent's agent, and then making sure E&S controls are in there. So happy to discuss more or happy to entertain a motion on this application.
I'll make a motion to approve application number 24-23, 5 Shepherd's Trail.
Second.
All right, so we have a motion and a second. So this is our last chance. If there's any other conditions or anything else that we want to flag in our approval, and if not, then we can vote. I felt that this was pretty straightforward. It's good to have all the ownership sorted out, and it is, as Martin said, a pretty minimal little project. All right, I am hearing no comments.
I'm good.
So all in favor of approving application 24-23, 5 Shepherd's Trail, with our resolutions as noted here, raise your hand, say aye.
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 All right, any abstaining, Any opposing? Great. All right,
Thank you very much.
you're welcome.
Have a good night.
You
Right.
too.
Yeah, be careful with fireworks this week too.
All right.
Okay. Good night.
Thank you. All right, so our next two applications were site walks. I realize I'm the only one here who was at the site walk. Did anybody get a chance to go out to any of these? No? Okay. Well, our first one is Sunrise and our second one is Boston Post. They both put in some detail about what they wanted to do. So we'll move on and for application 24-27, 9 Sunrise Lane. And we have the owner, Rick McPeak, to talk about it and answer questions. So,
Mr. McPeak, if you could unmute yourself.
you can unmute yourself.
You muted.
You're still muted.
Can you hear me?
Great. Yeah, now you can.
All right.
That's great. Okay. So basically, we have your application materials, and this is an opportunity for the agency members to ask questions and kind of figure out if there's any other questions we have about this proposed activity.
Okay.
And I don't know, do you want to briefly describe or I can pull up, or I don't know, Maria, if you have it handy.
Yeah.
Okay,
Do you have that map that I submitted that shows the location of the wetland area and a marking where the various trees are? Is that available?
Yes, you do. I'm just bringing it up right now.
Yeah, Maria's going to pull that up and we can all take a peek. Okay, great.
Okay, so they're color coded. I don't know if you can see that detail.
Yep.
And the color coding matches the bid that the tree guy put in. That's Affordable Tree Experts. Guy named Mike is the one who wrote it. And basically they kind of fall into a couple of different categories. So there's a dead ash right next to the driveway. I think that one's pretty straightforward. And if it fell, it could hit the house. It could block the driveway, depending on where it fell. That one I think is kind of the most obvious of everything. It's a big tree and it's got no bark on it. I mean, it's completely dead. It's about, I don't know, maybe 5 feet from the driveway. It has a diameter, I would guess, somewhere in the 12 to 14 inch range, something like that.
Okay.
Okay, and then there's an oak tree that the ash and the oak tree are right on the border of the wetlands. The oak tree has a damaged base, and my worry on that is that if it fell, it would hit the house. There's 3 trees that are dead and have been for a long time. 2 of them are leaning against, have fallen over and are leaning against other trees. And one of them is just, I don't know, most of the tree has fallen away. It's now kind of a stump that stands up about 10 feet. Okay, and then there are 2 trees that are outside of the wetland. They're angled at about I measured 55 degrees at the point where I could get to them. So that they're running at a very low angle. They're headed toward the street. And my worry is that if they get big enough and the ground gets really wet from a storm or something, they would fall into the road and would block access to 4 driveways. Okay, so, and then there's just 2 other trees that I'd like to get rid of if I can. They are not damaged. Mike said they were an undesired species. I don't really know anything about what species are desired and which ones aren't. Those 2 trees are not really, I mean, like I said, if I can get rid of them, that's great. If not, it's no big deal. So it kind of falls into one's dead, one's damaged. Those 2 trees could both hit the house if they fell. 3 that have been dead for a long time. They're just 2 have fallen down or leaning against other trees. One is what's left of the tree is standing up. The 2 out near the street, those are just, you know, if they got big enough and fell over, they would block the road. And then 2 that it'd be nice if I could get rid of, no big deal if I can't.
Okay. For those who weren't there, the 2 trees were hawthorn beam, which are native, and they weren't super big. The 2 that the tree person deemed unlikable or whatever.
Undesirable was the term he used.
Desirable.
I don't know if unlikable and undeniable or undesirable is the same thing or not, but those are the ones that were marked in the bid as undesirable.
Okay. Well, for those who know trees, those were hawthorn beam. So total of 9 trees. The two big ones, but potentially these 2 other ones, and a few others that you saw right on the sidewalk.
What about those?
And just saying, we've got 9 trees total that you're asking to have
Right.
removed. Okay, and my understanding is that the removal will be not taking place in the wetland or be minimized, or is it going to be heavy equipment?
Well, yeah, they add the dead ash and the oak are, like I said, are right on the border of the wetlands. So I don't know where they're going to fall, whether they'll fall toward the wetlands or away from the wetlands. They're right on the border. The 3 dead trees in the middle they're definitely in the wetland. The 2 undesirable, those are about 8 feet into the wetlands. Okay, and if all of those trees, except for the 2 really big ones, when they go down or when they are removed, it'll be in the wetlands. The 2 that are at the 55-degree angle, they are outside of the wetlands, and everything about that would happen outside of the wetlands, but within that 100-foot buffer zone.
Mm-hmm. All right. Questions for
Yeah.
applicant?
Yes, so is the dead ash the blue dot and the oak the red dot?
Yeah, I don't have that in front of me, but yeah, the ash is the one that is furthest to the left of all the trees.
Yes.
Okay, it's the one that's closest to the driveway.
And the oak is the red dot.
Okay,
Yeah.
and the 2 green dots, are those the hop hornbeam?
No, those are the birch leaning in the road.
They're the what?
Birch, it says, according to Mr. Grieger's report, it's the birch. It says leaning birch at road.
Okay, look like there's 2 there, so there's 2 leaning birches at the road?
Yes.
And then the purple, dots, are those all the same species?
Dead, declining.
Now,
and
the color coding is not about the species. The color coding is the line in the bid. So he wrote the whole job as like four lines, do this, do this, do this, do this. The color coding is, there's a color for each line. So if he's saying, you know, the blah, 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 that's the color for that one, and you can see it on the map.
So the purple is dead, declining, undesirable growth, and front mark wetland area.
Yeah, so those would be the ones that are dead and they fell over and they're leaning against other trees. Those are actually, I don't know, pretty small, like maybe 6 inches in diameter or something. But
So that could be-
there's no bark on them anymore. They're completely stripped. They've fallen over and they're leaning against other trees.
So does that look like it could be handwork then in the wetlands?
I don't think there'd be any other way to do it, to be honest with you. I don't think you could get a bucket truck in there. There's too many trees blocking it. And they're small enough to where I think they just walk in with a saw, cut them into pieces and take them out to the wood chipper.
Okay, will there be any stump removals?
Just the cut it as close to the ground as possible.
So no stump removals for any of these?
Yeah, no stump grinding or any of that kind of stuff.
Okay,
So
my-
go ahead, Martin.
yeah, I was just gonna say, I mean, typically if we're looking at a wetland delineation, we need a survey that locates everything, but I just wanted to say that out loud. But I think as a tree removal project, it looks like things are pretty well located relative to the wetlands. And so if no one else has any objections, I would find this map acceptable.
I agree.
Okay,
Yeah, there's I guess it's not a map, but there was a soil science report.
Hold on. Please hold.
Yeah, that's where the map came from. Soil scientists came in and basically marked the wetlands boundaries with pink kind of, it's like a plastic tape that he used to mark it.
yeah,
Right.
and then they gave you a sketch. It just wasn't located by a surveyor to scale, is what my point is.
Right.
Well, just hold on. Hold on. Trying to share. This is what was given. Can you see that?
Yeah, is that in the,
Oh, hold on. No, it wasn't, because this is what was given to Mr. McPeak when we started talking months and months ago. What was returned was from his soil scientist with a full report as the type of soils they are and what was marked. And, you know, when I showed it to Aaron, we discussed that it was, you know, with the types of soils on there and having everything marked on what the soil scientist did, instead of reinventing the wheel to put it back onto the survey.
are there wetlands shown on that? I think so.
Yeah, there
Back left.
Okay. Yep, I see them.
There you go.
right.
And what's
And so
the date on that map?
This word.
'87. No,
87.
subdivision.
Revised 1589, it says.
Okay,
Revised 123088 wetlands and well.
and then so you've had it reflagged obviously since then recently, and I think that the delineation is pretty similar.
Yeah, it was flagged in April this year.
Yeah.
So sometimes they take what we give them, you know, like Rich Snarsky, if you give an applicant a map like this, you know, like Rich Snarsky will use that map. Sometimes they don't, sometimes they use their own. So,
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So I guess one question I have is, looking through the tree person's report, it's a little thin on, unless I'm missing something, on how things will come out. So I guess I would just want to emphasize that we don't want to see heavy machinery in the wetland, and that the trees that are being proposed for removal within the wetland, so the purple, I guess most of the purple and some of the purple, I don't know about those green, it might be right outside, that that they are, they're not very big and they should be taken out by hand. It says they're gonna chip brush plus windfalls. So does this mean it says chip brush plus existing windfalls at the wetland area? What does that mean, existing windfalls? Is that in addition
Well,
to?
it's that area has not been touched in decades, it looks like. Okay, so over the year, branches have fallen down and stuff like that. It's just all kind of sitting in there. And they're basically saying, if we see something that fell on the ground, we'll pick it up and put it in the wood chipper to kind of make the place look less, messed up. I mean, the problem is that wetlands actually divides my front yard in half. And so it basically, when you look at this from the street to the house, you'll see dead trees laying over and old branches sticking up and that kind of stuff. So it kind of detracts from the roadside view of the house.
Okay.
so when I had sent an email asking for the methodology, we'll be using a crane, a bucket truck, climbing, or heavy equipment be entering the wetlands. The logs be put in place or dragged out. The only thing Mike Ruger wrote back was, will facilitate tree removal at night, sunrise, then without equipment in the wetlands. All logs and debris you create will be removed. That's all he said.
Yeah, it would make no sense to bring heavy equipment into that center section because all the big stuff is on the edges. The only thing in the inner area are those dead trees that are laid over on their sides. Everything else is more easily available by just coming in from the area outside the wetlands with a saw and cutting it. So the two big trees, those are the ones that are going to involve a bucket truck. They'll take those down from the top. So they'll go to the top of the tree and cut it in sections and either drop the sections or lower them with a rope. That's kind of the standard way they do that. And the bucket truck would be sitting probably over on the driveway for all of that, because that's the best place. I mean, the bucket truck is a 96-footer and it would have no trouble getting over to those trees from the driveway. So it wouldn't even make sense to put it on the front lawn of the house. It would make more sense to just leave it on the driveway and go over and cut the trees from there. And then the crew stands at the bottom and gets the sections as they fall off.
And the chipped material that's staying there?
No, they cart that off. Some of it is, I think, taken to places like Madison Earth Care that sell it as kind of mulch and stuff like that, or wood chips that people spread out in various places. But they basically have a big wood chipper and a truck, and they just take it all and either sell it to those places or dispose of it, something like that. But it wouldn't be left in the area.
Other agency members have questions about this application?
No questions. I think it's pretty straightforward. I think as long as we maybe include in our conditions, you know, no heavy equipment in the wetlands, chips removed off site, no stumping, that we're just tree felling. I think this is pretty standard tree work.
Agreed.
Okay. Uh,
I'm just so pleased somebody came before the commission and asked permission instead of getting in
Yeah.
trouble.
I know,
You know,
it's so much,
it's
this
quite
is
nice.
much better.
You know, I would have had no clue that you had to get permission to do that. You know, like when we moved in here about 4 years ago, nobody said, by the way, if you ever want to do something with those trees, you can't just do that. You have to get permission to do it because that's a wetlands. But Mike, when he showed up, said, I can't do anything with this until you get permission to do it. So all the credit for that goes to him.
Great.
Okay, well, I will make a motion that we approve application 24-27, 9 Sunrise Lane, with the following conditions outlined here. About the agency's agent will be notified. As we discussed, machinery and truck access will be from the upland, and I guess we should, and no heavy machinery in the wetlands, or the 100-foot review area. I guess that might be tricky. And all cut trees and brush materials shall be removed from the property. We can discuss that. So that's the motion. Do I have a
I'll
second?
second that.
All right. All right. So for discussion, so is it feasible to keep the heavy machinery out of the 100-foot review area?
Well,
I
the
don't
Yeah.
think
100-foot area includes the driveway, right? So that's where you would put the truck, you know, the bucket truck.
Mhm.
But I mean, that's
I
where
think
you want it to be, right? It's on the driveway. That's as good as it gets. I don't think there's any reason for going to the front lawn to get to anything. But if they do, what they typically do is they put down these kind of, I mean, they're worried. A lot of people don't want heavy machinery on their front lawns, right? Because they just don't want to deal with the ground being, you know, permanently marked by heavy machinery. So these guys actually go out of their way to not go on front lawns, just because most people don't want it. And it has nothing to do with whether it's wetlands or not. It's just, it leaves a deep kind of depression on the grass if you go on with heavy machinery.
Right.
So they're very conscious of that. If they don't need to be on the grass, they don't go.
Okay.
Maybe instead of saying 100-foot review area, we could say like, I don't know, something like heavy machinery would be restricted to the asphalt driveway unless some sort of track pad was used on the lawn area.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
That was a little wordy, but
Well, I guess you can just say no heavy machinery in the wetlands. Martin, were you going to say something?
Yeah, I was gonna say, maybe we just change it to all work in the wetlands must be conducted by hand and hand tools, hand equipment. That, and you know, I've had tree guys on my lawn before and it's not, maybe it'll make a little bit of a dent, but it's not anything that's gonna create erosion or create any difficulty.
Well,
So
maybe
I
we
think,
say, yeah.
yeah, I don't
Alright.
think the heavy equipment within the 100-foot reviews on its lawn or driveway, it's not gonna be an impact. And, you know, work in the wetland should be done with hand equipment.
Yeah, so maybe we can amend that to be no heavy machinery shall enter the wetlands, and all work within the wetlands will be done with hand tools. And that takes care of that. Okay, so we can amend that. Any other So this part will be amended to wetlands. And how's that? Is that better?
I think we should also add no clearing. So it would just be felling and removing the cut trees and brush, but no stumping.
So, right. I think that's what they say too in the report, but is that what you're thinking? No stump
Yeah,
removal?
within the wetlands. Or, wherever.
Okay. Okay, and if this helps be clear, so all cut trees and brush shall be removed from the property. Yeah, I think that covers it. Does that cover everything?
Yeah, will I have a copy of this that I can send to him?
Yes,
Yes.
I'll
Alright.
send the letter and these conditions will be in it.
Okay.
Okay. So we are still in the middle of our motion. So we've had our motion and a second. We've had our discussion and we've amended our motion. All in favor of our amended motion? Raise your hand, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Any abstaining? Okay. Great. All right. Well, thank you. And thank you also for coming before us instead of coming after, because the after is not nearly as much fun.
Yeah, well, thank you guys for all the time you put in on this. That was quite a project. actually.
Yeah. Yeah. Well,
You'll receive a letter in the mail, okay?
Yeah, it's too bad you guys don't get paid for it.
yeah.
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 Thank you, Mr. McPeak.
All right,
Thank
thank you
you.
and have a good night.
You too.
All right. So our next one is again, slightly more trees and a little more complicated application. So this is 24-28, 320 Boston Post Road and 31 Maple Lane. For those on the sidewalk, would be me. This is a wetland that comes in between two properties. The trees that are being proposed to come out are pretty big. Most of them appear to be within the wetland. And it will require, I think you saw this in the material, a crane to take some of these out. And it looks like we have somebody from the tree company, Amanda Babineau, describe this.
Let's treat is with us.
Hi, yes, I'm here.
Great. So if you want to, so we have some of the information that we requested for the trees. I think it'll be helpful for us as an agency to look at the tree removal on the map, which I don't even know. Do we have one, Maria?
I'll bring up the new one. I added it, and I said to you guys I had some late modifications. I know it's hard to keep up. Let's see, revised plan 7-1.
But yeah, that revised one, it wasn't clear. Maybe I missed it. It wasn't entirely clear where the trees were.
So this is a map that I was able to find of the property at 320 Boston Post Road. And just so you guys know, when Amanda speaks, this was what was flagged at one point. And the property line is right here, and that's where the trees. This is 31 Maplewood Lane. Right along. the
Right,
driveway.
so for those who weren't there, so Maplewood comes off of Route 1. This is all the way at the end of Maplewood. The Boston Post Road one is actually a long driveway that comes back. So these two pieces kind of abut at the end. So this is just one that you found. So we haven't had the wetlands. This is the closest we've had to wetlands being flagged.
Right, yes. Because they did not have the wetlands delineated.
And when was this? Do we have a date? I'm sorry, I didn't look carefully.
Geez, I don't know if I'm gonna be able to tell. Yeah, copy.
It's so small at the bottom, I can't read it.
Yeah,
February 21,
yeah, that's all I can make out too. February 21.
it looks like the first number of the year is a 1. Quite a while ago.
1980 something. I
Oh,
have.
Yeah, this is, so it says revised 1985, 19. So this is, all right, so this is what we have. It has not been reflagged.
Yeah.
It's not since then. Well, for those not on the sidewalk, you can see, and if you looked at I guess this got posted today, the revised methodology. There are a number of red maples, white maples, some pretty big trees if you looked that are being proposed to come out. It looked like included on the most recent methodology, there's some multiflora rose that was being proposed to come out because it's invasive. You can see on the application, there's varying reasons for each tree for them, for the homeowners. And again, we've got 2 properties for them to want to remove these trees. There is not currently a planting plan, given that these trees it'll make a big difference in this wetland, taking these trees out, the number and the size. And so I think we had asked, and I guess one of the homeowners is thinking about a planting plan, but that
Mhm.
isn't submitted. And that is, given the amount of work, I think that is something that we would want to know more about. But I'll just throw that out there. So do any of the agency members have questions for Amanda?
I don't think so. I think the methodology clears up a lot of the questions that we had during the previous application discussion. I think for planting plan, it looks like there are quite a number of trees that are, like Kayla said, on the larger side. But it looks
Yeah.
like there are also some that are smaller, so we may want to have a distinction of what tree would be replanted, if you will. Because I think there's like chokecherry, there's some smaller DBHs or circumferences that may not need replacement.
Right. And it's not clear without the planting plan to understand what the plan is for that. And I guess taking out all those trees without the planting plan, I think it would be helpful to understand.
I'm not to give some of you to orientate yourself. This is where all the work is
Right.
being done. That helps you enough from it. Unfortunately, I can't make it bigger because when I do, it changes the view. And all the trees are there.
It also looks like from the pictures that there's quite a number of saplings in the area. So, you know, while we could ask to replant, it looks like given time, it would naturally revegetate anyways.
Right. I guess what I'm worried about, not worried, I guess it sounds like there is a landscape architect involved. Is that right, Amanda?
I don't know if there's a landscape architect involved. I just spoke to one of the homeowners and she was planning on planting native, I don't know, vegetation. I don't know the proper word for it, but I don't know if she was doing trees or if she wanted to do what is specifically her plan was. But I do know that she was going to, if I think that was step 2. She didn't want to necessarily disrupt the area, but she was concerned that her house could be crushed or she could be, if these trees come down in a storm because of the location of them. So it's not that she doesn't want to work with you to get it done. She just wants to keep her and her family safe. Even if it's just the big trees that we start with that have holes in the bases,
Okay, I completely understand, and I know we talked about that at the site walk, and that is detailed in the methodology. This is a different question entirely. So if it's still a delineated, well, it is still a wetland, and so I guess this is something the homeowner, they may just have to come back to us because the assumption on our part would be that you're taking these trees out and then it will just, as Anna was saying, it will just naturally, maybe fill in because there are some saplings, there are other things there. If there is a plan in place for replanting, that's completely different because especially if they are planning to plant within the wetlands. So we would need to understand because that's within the wetlands and that's the regulated activity. So that's what the planting plan is about. If there is one, we would want to understand that, I think.
Oh, absolutely. For our purposes, we wouldn't be the ones planting. That's
Okay.
not what, yeah. Sorry.
Okay, so for the agency members, other questions or comments? I will just say, as you think through and other comments, taking out trees in wetlands is, that happens and it happens naturally as well. I mean, it'll be a big change there. So I think the homeowner should be, aware that it will change the hydrology of the area. Typically, often when you take trees out like this, you actually get more water. So that should be something that they should be aware of. You'll have more open canopy. So for the agency members, are there any other questions or comments?
No, I think the methodology document really summarizes very well what's going to happen.
Okay.
I was wondering, again, this certainly seems more substantial than the last tree removal project.
Mm-hmm.
We don't have a recent wetland delineation or any comments from a wetland scientist. And also this area seems to be near where there are tidal wetlands.
Yes, it's abutting longshore.
Yeah, so my question there also is are we dealing with tidal wetlands here? I think that would be an important consideration for this application.
Yeah, I don't think, well, I guess it could be freshwater tidal. I don't know. yes, this does, for those who've been involved in any of the longshore applications over the year, this is at the northern end. There's a wetland at the northern end of that. Yes, so I think it's unfortunate that we don't have a more current wetland delineation. And we certainly, can ask for that. It is more substantial, as you noted, removal than the previous application. I do think, and we discussed this at the sidewalk, that it would be helpful to have these wetlands flagged and delineated. Given the amount of work being done actually within them. Because most of these trees seem to be within, as far as we can tell, without a wetland map, or without the flagging, that they are within there. So I don't know, Maria, where are we? Do we have another date on this? Do we?
Yes,
Or
so it
not?
was only received last month.
I'm sorry?
It was only received last month, so you decided to walk it.
Oh,
So
that's right. That's right. So we have another, so we don't have to decide tonight.
you don't, no, you don't. I just, yeah, I mean, it would, yeah, you don't have to.
I'm just making sure that we all understand the options. So, I don't, so, so Anna and Tom and Martin, I mean, would you want to see a delineation or a flagging? Sounds like Martin, you would,
Yes.
and Tom's nodding yes. Okay.
Yeah, and comment from the wetland scientists about the project and recommendations, especially if they're going to propose a planting plan, they might want to work with a wetland scientist.
Okay. All right, Anna, do you have any other thoughts?
No. I think the applicant was saying planting plan really isn't part of this application.
No, yeah.
They would have to come back, but if it's not part of the application right now, that's okay, I think.
Right, and I think that's something the homeowner needs to understand, that if there is a planting plan, and I guess, Maria, we can convey that would have to, given,
Well, yeah, I guess we can make that as a condition of,
Yeah. Okay, so I know, it's not, well, so it sounds like the request is to get this delineated by a soil scientist so that we can have a better understanding of this wetland. Is that, you can just nod along? Is that where we're at?
Yes, and they have to come back next month, so,
Right. Right, they would have to come back next month. Okay, so I guess so Amanda, so I guess you can talk to your clients and let them know that, and I guess, that we want to see the wetlands delineated, and ideally, some of these wetland scientists can speak to the impact a little bit of what it means to take these trees out.
Okay, and then I
Paraphrase.
will also tell them if they're doing any planting, then that is something they'll have to submit to you. Can they do that in a separate application since we're not part of that?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
They can do that. That could be totally separate. They can think about, that would be separate. So, but I think it'll be helpful, given that the wetland map that at least the town has on file is from, it looks like the 1980s. That it would be helpful to have a more clear picture of the type and outline of these wetlands.
Okay,
And the
so a delineation of the wetlands by a scientist, a soil scientist, and to ask their opinion on what the impact of the tree removal will be on this area is what you're looking for.
Yes, is that right?
Okay.
Martin, is that, yeah.
Is there any other things that you need? I'd rather just take care of it in one fell swoop going forward that you think you would like to see?
I think that's actually the most important thing, is to get a sense of where these trees are with respect to the wetland, and to have a better understanding of wetland delineation and the impact that taking out these trees will have.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you.
Thank you. And
Thank
I'll
you.
you
All
next
right.
month.
Bye-bye. Yes, thanks. Bye.
Okay. Let's see, our next application is not an application. Look at that. We got through our applications. So our next is an enforcement. It's just a checkup on 129 Green Hill Road with Matthew and Jessica and Joseph.
Yes,
And are they?
I went
Okay.
out there today. I have pictures. Actually, looks really good. All the trees have been removed. The brush has been removed. They are, small. But the brush has been removed. They're in the process of doing the invasive removals right now.
Okay.
You see them? These are things that have just reappeared, appearing on their back to life. This is actually, oh, did my screen just went black? Are you still seeing that?
No, we can still see it.
Yeah, all the fern is coming back. They have, the trees are sprouting again. A lot of sprouting trees. Everything's coming back. Look, got a lot of action. They've been very excited. They've seen bobcats and they've had a lot of birds with salamanders, frogs, turtles, deer.
Nice.
They have they're starting to treat the plantings of their plants next month, mid-August, I believe. In September, they'll start replanting. They have, according to a planting plan. They have almost all the invasives removed. They actually started getting some plants already to put back, and they also have someone coming out separately. This wasn't part of the condition, but they do have someone coming out to look at the pond, to look at a system. And I just wanted to ask, what is we called it something, and I actually couldn't remember what you said it was. Hold on. What is what's the green on the pond? Is the green
Duckweed.
duckweed? Yeah. I kept wanting to call it milkweed.
Duckweed.
Yeah. So they're looking at they had talked about at one time putting some kind of like aeration and put some more things moving about just in case they want fish in there. They want, to help the aquatic life in there. So they were having somebody come out to talk about it with them to educate them. So
Mhm.
You know what kind of, well, we can talk about that at a different point. It'll just be adding fish is actually a big deal for those type of ponds. So I just wonder what kind of fish they're thinking of.
I don't know. He just talked about definitely the the duckweed, I guess he says even before the trees were cut, I don't know if it's considered a problem thing or not. I have no idea if it hurts, helps, if it's, what it is, what it does, what its function is. But he said they were having somebody to come out, they would like to get some kind of aeration through the pond. But
Okay.
I guess we'll find out when they go out, because they're coming out. I think they'll be out before the next check-in, so.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, well, that is great. So we can move along. Thank you for the pictures. It's good to see what's happening, plus turtles and salamanders and frogs.
Yeah.
So our show cause hearing, this was again from last month where there was work being done on Harbor Avenue, and some discussion about permit,
Yes.
and whether or not it's tidal or freshwater inland wetlands. So are
Yes.
we anywhere close
So
to resolve?
not yes and no. So the homeowner of 145 Harbor Avenue who did the work found I guess an old permit. It's five, I believe it's like 5 years old, to do work. And they reached out to DEP, and Kevin Savoy from DEP went out, and I contacted him, or he contacted me, I can't actually remember, it was a bit ago. He says it's their jurisdiction. However, when I told him, okay, that if you say that, however, we have a recently flagged wetland from Rich Snarsky that was just flagged at the beginning of the year at 128 Chittenden, which abuts this property, which he, deemed inland wetlands. So he said he was going, I sent him the map, and he said he was going to reach out to Rich and they would have a discussion on it, because it could be one, it could be both, it could be, either or. And hadn't heard back from him. I reached out to him today, and he said he did speak with Rich. He sent Rich the information he had, which was the old DEP application from 5 years ago, stating that it was titled, but he said Rich did not get back to him. So we're still in the middle of a turf war. We don't know whose jurisdiction this is.
Okay. Okay.
I can't tell you that there is, the cease and desist is still in place, and one of the parties will be removing because she sold the property to 145 Harbor Avenue with that funny shed or whatever was sitting on a split property line, and now 145 owns all of it. So one of the people will be removed. They also did receive a health cease and desist because they worked on septic system without permits. They received a letter from the building department because they worked on a building without permits. And if it is jurisdiction of DEP, then if it is tidal wetlands, then we close our matter, and then it's just a matter for violation of planning and zoning for doing work in a coastal zone without permits.
Okay.
That's where we're at with that. We can't really move forward until we know for sure, because DEP says one thing, we have something that says another, and they want to straighten it out. So, if you want to make just a decision to keep, this cease and desist and, status quo or in place, it's, until we find out.
Yeah, I mean, I think, do we have to do something proactive? Because I think if we have a cease and desist
Well, we
in place,
can ask
we should
that
just,
they flagged him, but they didn't, because they didn't hire a soil scientist, because they're positive that it's not, wasn't necessary, because they had all this documentation and they got all the documentation to me in dribs and drabs, over the past few weeks. And then Kevin Savoy said it was, DEP, but we just, again, we want to make sure whatever they find out from Rich Snarsky, if he agrees, I guess I don't know if they would then go ahead and flag to determine or not. But we just don't really have, we had an order in place that was kind of got nowhere. So I don't know if we want to do a new order or just make a motion that cease and desist is in, it's up to you.
So are you saying a new order would be to ask them to flag it, to get it?
I don't, we asked them last time and they wouldn't do it, so, because they said
Right.
that documentation that said it was titled.
Okay,
which they-
so,
Yeah, so.
okay.
Make the motion that says the cease and desist remains in place until jurisdiction is, decided.
Yeah, I mean, and that is actually in their benefit to try to get it flagged so we could figure it out. All right, well, I'll make a motion that we keep the cease and desist in place until we understand what type of wetland it is and who has jurisdiction.
Okay, so, okay. Everybody,
Is there
Second.
a second? Okay. All in favor? Raise your hand, say aye. Okay, so yes, we'll keep this cease and desist in order. And, we've asked them to do, if we've asked them once, to do the delineation. If they don't want to do it, I mean,
yeah, I guess they thought they didn't need to because they had this survey from, Priscola that showed otherwise, so, and we want clarification, and DEP said they would take care of it, so I guess it.
okay, well, I would recommend that it would probably go faster if they did that.
Yeah.
Okay, so look at this, no receipts. This is very exciting. Hope everyone's, except I know I'm very sorry that we bumped the one to next month. So correspondence, we have DEP treating ponds again. Careful with my language. So we're going to move quickly on from that, just noting that they continue to do that. And then we have discussion of the plan of conservation and development. So I don't know if anybody had a chance to take a look. This is our chance. I think July 11th is the day that they vote, or if they're going to look at this in a more official sense. This is the draft. I would say I read through it that it was a nice job by planning and zoning, and I know a lot of committee members. I think there are a lot of different committees that contributed to this document. It's nice to have it all out there. I don't know, actually. So did anybody, let's see. And I think, as far as inland wetlands goes, there's a public hearing for this on the 11th. So I'm just going to quickly share my screen. And the, it's helpful. Can you guys see this? Are you seeing the plan of zoning? Okay, in all my tabs.
Mhm.
Excellent. So it's, it's kind of nice if you look through it. For the natural environment, I'm just going to see what I highlighted. There's this goal for open space and water resources, which is great. Those are nice goals. You can see, if you look, it's interesting, the population trends. You can see that going down. I will just flag, so insofar as we're thinking about inland wetlands, these are kind of these objectives. And is the use of natural resources, providing recreational activities, having, calling out public health and safety from stormwater management and safe drinking water policies, and climate. I guess what I would say is, if you think about inland wetlands and you think about some of the challenges that we see, right, month to month, there is a lot of building, and there's, limited land. And, I think one thing that we end up seeing is a lot of these, that we put a lot of conditions on our applications. And so I don't know. I'm not sure if we want to change, if there's something to put changing about wetland regulations or not. And I don't know if I'm going to be able to find it here in the policies. But I would just say, a lot of the water was focused on just kind of public health and safety, but I think there's other reasons to protect water. And that does get called out here in part to think about climate change. And I highlighted all this stuff and I'm not going to be able to find it. So I'm going to stop sharing. So the two things that I thought that in the wetlands perspective is that I think it's really helpful to try to keep septic systems away from wetlands as much as possible, and to kind of maybe be more thoughtful about nitrogen in general. And I think that has come up sometimes with respect to thinking about how water is flowing into these wetlands. And we've had some discussion on some of the properties, especially, maybe in the southern part of town. And I don't know if planning and zoning can think about that. And the other thing is that there's a wastewater committee, I guess, looking at long-term wastewater plans, which I think will be important for towns like Madison that are really just on septic and not sewer. And that can also impact wetland quality depending on what happens there. So outside of that, I guess, I wish that there had been a little bit more, maybe just protecting water resources and biodiversity itself, but that's okay. Did you guys have any, if you had a chance to look through any comments or anything that came up?
I actually just started looking through it before this meeting for a few minutes. I am on the Water Pollution Control Authority
Oh, good.
board. And we're just we'd hired Weston and Sampson to do a full study of the town and make recommendations in a plan. And a lot of that obviously has to do with septic systems and septic system suitability and mapping areas of town where septic systems have been troublesome, and creating some mechanisms for upgrading septic systems to more modern ones, and being cautious in and around development. And I haven't seen anywhere in the plan, the POCD, anything to do with that, but I haven't gotten very far yet either. So I think from a wetland standpoint, the septic system issue is a really important one, like you said. And the WPCA is definitely looking into that, and there's going to be a solid plan in place. Hopefully the plan of conservation and development refers to the Water Pollution Control Authority plan and considers it.
Yeah, they talk about they didn't get into a lot of specifics, but they did talk about that there is this committee in place to talk about wastewater in general and kind of long-term solutions. And I guess in the back, their policies and goals, they have, I'll just share. So can you see this? Again, they have policies and goals about enhancing connections to nature. So this inventory and some of these plans, there's harbor management, remediation, that's starting to think about tidal wetlands and inland wetlands. It's still, kind of vague, but at least it's in there. Here's infrastructure. I'm not sure where the water, here's this enhanced development in downtown. Here's the Water Pollution Control Authority. I assume there'll be more about that. Anyway, so I guess overall, I thought it was good. I don't know how detailed these often are. I think it's good to call out the septic issue in particular, because it impacts a lot of waterways. Did Tom or Anna, did you have any comments?
I haven't had a chance to dig into this yet, to be honest.
Yeah, no, I know. I was like, oh yeah.
I will definitely read through it this week.
Okay, well, I guess, you know, if the public hearing is coming up, if you have any, if you guys do have a chance to look at it this week, that'd be great. And maybe you can email it around to everyone so we can at least have it together. Maria, I don't know, are we commenting officially? Would we, you know, submit something as an agency officially or?
Honestly,
Or
I don't
not.
remember. You know that Aaron emailed you guys, and I don't know if it was just if the email. Were you just supposed to email her back if you had thoughts? I don't know if as an agency, since not everybody's looked at it.
Right. Okay. Well,
This is-
take it. Yeah. So take a look and see, and we can, if we have, you know, a few points that we can forward on to the planning zoning, then maybe that would be helpful. Since they're asking, you know, since it's going for public hearing and they're asking for input. Okay.
Her email just said they going for public hearing. Here's the draft. A copy of it's available on the town website. Please share the rest with the rest of the agency. P&Z Commission encourages comments for the hearing. So, if you wanted to, you know, email.
Okay.
Is this something we can do outside of a meeting? Can we maybe, if we have a chance to review and have some comments, can we email them?
Sure. Yeah, it's like a working document.
Yeah,
It's
Yeah.
posted and
Yeah,
yes.
I think we can. So
comments.
yeah, if you know, think about it this week, if you guys, you know, if someone wants to start something, we can kind of, you know, get you know, some comments going around that we can forward on. That'd be great. I will try to pull together a couple sentences and I'll get us started tomorrow.
bless you.
Okay, so now we're down to approval of minutes. So we have the regular meeting minutes from June 3rd and the walk meeting minutes from June 13th. I think we'll pass on the walk meeting minutes because Lee was the only other person here for that. But we can't, did people have a chance to look at the meeting minutes for June 3rd? And if you did you have any, I went through them and I thought they were great. I didn't see any huge issues.
I wasn't there, so I can't vote.
Okay. All right, well, anybody, Anna and Tom, do you feel comfortable voting on the minutes?
Yes.
All right. Oh, you're muted on.
I'm not sure if I was at that one or.
I think you left by 10.
Oh,
So you were
okay.
there for, you were there for the first many hours.
Could have been.
We're gonna do better tonight.
So we're gonna table the walk ones you said, right?
Yeah, we'll table the walk ones and wait till
Okay.
right.
Took a
Well,
brief look. I think we're good.
okay. I make a motion that we approve the regular meeting minutes from June 3rd, 2024.
I'll second that.
All right. All in favor, raise your hand, say aye.
Aye.
Abstaining. Okay, we have 3 ayes and 1 abstaining with Martin. We're tabling inland wetlands chairman remarks. This is great. I am sorry that we didn't mop up everything tonight because we had the Maplewood / Boston Post Road. Although I think they should get, I think it was good, Martin, that you pushed for getting the wetlands delineated and they were asked previously. But otherwise, hopefully we will have a lighter agenda. I know it's been a few months of kind of crazy 11 o'clock, which is kind of crazy. So hopefully we get a break. And anyway, thank you all, as usual, for all your help. Those are all my comments. Maria, did you have any comments?
I just had a few. I know it's you know, maybe sound like nagging again. I really do appreciate everybody's time and effort volunteering. I do completely understand. My husband was a volunteer on planning and zoning for 8 years. However, we really would appreciate, and I know we do shoot off a lot of emails. Attendance is paramount, and when we ask, if you can let us know. We did have somebody cancel at 4:45 tonight, which made me had to reach out and beg someone that was not going to be able to attend to come to make a quorum. If not, it would be canceled. I understand things come up, but and unfortunately, we don't have tons of people on. We have just enough. We don't have alternates, and so sometimes we're always in jeopardy of not having a quorum or having just about a quorum and losing a quorum, halfway through the meeting. So hopefully going forward, we'll have light agendas. We only have one thing next month. We have no new receipts. So if we get anything from now until then, obviously we won't hear anything until September. So hopefully we can all have a nice little break and be ready to have at it again.
Yeah. Well,
yeah, it's tough to try to pull it together, especially with public hearings and advertising and then having to cancel, and it ruins the clock for people. And so
right.
we'll just do our best.
And is there any move to get more? Because you're right, we are kind of right at the edge of
Don't have
having a
extra.
quorum.
We're supposed to have like 7 or something with,
Yeah.
Supposed to be a bigger commission, obviously.
Yeah.
No, I don't know how we can ask. We don't have anything to do with getting members. They don't apply to us. They apply to the town, to the first selectman's office, and then they assign them. And people could apply and ask to be on, economic development, and they get put on wetlands. So we don't know who's coming to us. We
Okay.
don't have anything to do with it, and we don't choose anybody. We just get told, hey, you have a new person. So,
Okay.
I guess we can ask them if they can advertise, if they, volunteer. Would love to have you.
Yeah, I remember in the past, sometimes you'd see, I don't know where you'd see advertisements, or you'd see that there are, positions available on such and such town boards. It might be helpful to put that out, because we've been kind of coasting on not very many people for a while.
Yeah, I can ask up in the front office. I mean, there may be people who have submitted, they just haven't really gotten around to, sorting through it and sending them to the Democratic Committee and the Republican, because they're the ones that have to then,
Right.
and
Right.
I can ask, because it is, like I said, we don't have a large commission, and I have the same thing with ZBA. There's just enough people, and
Right.
it's dicey sometimes.
Yeah. Okay.
Didn't one of the guests suggest that we get paid? Didn't I heard that somewhere. I just thought
I heard that too.
I thought that might help pull in some other recruits, or
Yeah.
but
I
just
would love
a
that.
thought,
Yeah, something. There should be something.
yeah.
Yeah.
One of my
Okay.
favorite story that I tell is a gentleman that we issued a violation to for planning and zoning. Had a mobile home parked. It was in his driveway. It's supposed to be either on the rear side of the house. Was fascinated with the whole process, that we, issued a violation, and speaking with the town, and now he serves on planning and zoning. He ended up volunteering this time. And you never know how people come about and want to do it. But
Yeah.
Well, okay. So we are at the end of our agenda. I'll entertain one last motion for the evening.
Make a motion to adjourn.
Like that.
All right. All
Second.
in favor?
Third.
Everyone, second, third.
There we
All
go.
right, all in favor? I think we're all in favor. All right, excellent. Please go enjoy your day, and thank you, Tom, for taking time out to be with us.
Okay.
a nice story.
Thank you.
Have a good evening.
Bye-bye.
See you.
Bye-bye.